Go ahead and start. And what I wanted to say is welcome again to everyone. I'm sure there'll be more coming in as we go on. If you are new, and obviously we do have some new people in attendance, I would appreciate it if you entered your contact information, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, in the chat. So that we have a record, and let us know if you already received the Prescott Indivisible newsletter, or we never even found out how you learned about us. So whatever you can let us know, it will be greatly welcome. There are going to be several presentations. We do have a tight schedule today. What we would appreciate it, since there's going to be somebody monitoring the questions, that if you have a question, that you send it in the chat, put it in the chat under Prescott Indivisible, which is basically everyone, and or to everyone, but put question or a question mark in front, so that the person monitoring the chat can tell that there's questions. Anyway, are we all good to go? Diane and Deb, you're good?
I am.
Okay, so let me, as most of you know, and you will hear some of the same complaints from this group regarding what's going on with the Redistricting Commission. Our topic tonight is going to be redistricting and Arizona's Independent Redistricting Commission. The two presenters, one is Diane. She is on the screen there now. She's the ground game coordinator for Outlaw Dirty Money. And coincidentally, that's going to be next month's topic. And she is a member of the statewide Indivisible team on redistricting. Deborah Howard, who is also going to be talking with us about redistricting, is the volunteer head of the Arizona Indivisible redistricting team, and who is very much on her way to becoming, and this is self-described, a redistricting nerd. So welcome to our two speakers. And if you want to get started, oh, one more thing, and sorry, please accept the fact that this is tight. Marion is going to be giving you, like, at the 1 minute warning, she is going to say there's 1 minute left, and that's going to apply to all the presenters. Go for it, Diane.
Okay, so from the agenda you sent, Maria Elena, I've got 10 minutes. Deb has 10 minutes, and then we've got 15 minutes for questions, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I am going to share my screen here. And let's see, share my screen. And come on.
Great.
View. Okay, where's my view slideshow? Normal. Slide master. Where am I? Oh, that's why I'm in the wrong one. Okay, everybody can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm going to try not to talk too much to what's on the screen, since you can read that. I'm assuming everybody here has heard about redistricting, not just in the nation, and especially in our state. We've had two commissions already since 2000. Both have been quite, I wasn't part of those, but from what I've heard, both have been, quite contentious, and don't expect this one to be any less. We are actually one of about 21 states that have commissions, and there's actually 4 types of commissions. There's independent, which we are a part of, legislative commission, which legislatures in the states redraw the maps. There's a political advisory commissions, and those are basically, they provide input, can draw the maps, but they have no say so. And then backup commissions, and states that have those come into play when legislatures can't make a decision. and then these backup commissions too, but we have an independent commission. The commission, how things get appointed is the Commission on Appellate Court Appointments, CACA, is a body which conducts the application process for the commissioners. It's a nonpartisan group, but note that the members are appointed by the governor. There are 15 members and it's chaired by the state justice. So basically what happens is the public submits applications to the CACA to be a commissioner. They then do all the interviews and narrow it down. And then our political leaders in the state, the House Majority Leader, House Minority Leader, Senate President, Senate Minority Leader, each get to make a pick. So these are the people they have picked for the 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. And, you know, the other thing they note is that no more than 2 of the commissioners can reside in the same county. So you can see where they're from here. The next steps is that while CACA has done the interviews for the independent chair, the base interviews, they selected 5. And then at that point, these commissioners then conduct those interviews. And a number of us here sat in on those like 4-hour interviews. So these 4 commissioners picked the independent for the commissioner, and who is also the chair, and that's Erica Shupak-Newberg. And then Derek Watchman, who is a Democrat, is the vice chair. And so that's how it kind of gets to where it is. There are 6 basic points for redistricting. 1 person, 1 vote. Districts should be roughly equal in size and population. Adhere to the Federal Voting Rights Act. The shape of the district. Respect for communities of interest, and Deb can probably address that better than me. Geographical features like city and town lines, county lines, and then potential competitiveness, which a lot of us look at as political competitiveness. So these are the 6 criteria that the commission is supposed to adhere to when they draw the maps. As we all know, because of the pandemic, the census was delayed. What you're seeing on the screen here is what happened in 2011, the timeline, and kind of what we're looking at now. They've got the full commission. They're at the point now where they just hired an executive director, which anybody who leans left is extremely upset about. Maria Elena is laughing. Very upset about that. To all of us, it was an extremely partisan hire, and really what happened was during the interviews, they did the base interviews, and then the commission went into executive session. And when they came out of executive session, and in the meantime, a lot of us were submitting public comments. They came out of the executive session and then basically asked most of the 5 interviewees, to me, a bunch of ridiculous, stupid questions. But it came out that Brian Schmidt had been paid last year. He's got close ties to the RNC, had been paid to organize that McSally rally that was up here at the courthouse. Shireen Lerner, who's a Democrat, said, "Why wasn't that on your resume?" And he said, "Well, it was a one-off. It really wasn't part of my job," and which was a bunch of bull. Everybody who heard this said this guy should have been immediately disqualified. So at this point, personal opinion, I'm not very happy with Commissioner Newberg. She's the independent. And, you know, all through this process, she has been saying, and Deb and Maria Lyon can tell me if I'm wrong, she's been saying the person we hire for the executive director has to be able to hit the ground running. This guy had like the least amount of experience. And so we're pretty upset about that. But so it's not starting out on a happy foot for some of us. This last meeting, they're doing interviews for legal counsel and starting to talk about, they've received RFPs for mapping consultant. They're only got 3 RFPs, and Commissioner Newberg's kind of like, we should be able to get more. The legal counsel, that kind of worries me. They had 2 choices. Because they're an independent commission, they can go any which way they want, or they can use the procured list from the Attorney General's office, Brnovich office. So I'm not too happy about that either. But we have had some good news recently. Everybody's been saying that, the Census Bureau has been saying that we may not be able to get data until the end of September. They're now saying that we could have raw data in an older format, which most mapping consultants should be able to read. Could be released by mid-August. But because of the delay, a lot of these other items is just basically, you know, on a kind of like, got to take it as it comes. They do have a new website. It's there on the screen, irc.az.gov. Advocacy opportunities. We need as many people putting in comments. You know, last commission, it was the Tea Partiers and the Republicans. This time it's going to be the far right and the Republicans that are going to be trying to get, you know, what they can. They want O'Halloran out. And so they've got their goals, and we could very likely have probably going to end up with a 10th congressional district. So probably going to be in the Maricopa County area where all the voters are. But we need people. Their meetings are every Tuesday morning from 9 to 12. They're broadcast live on YouTube. They have a new website. This is their new website. You can go onto their website and click on public meetings and see the meeting. Get the link in here. You can look at the agenda. You can submit public comments. You can actually, sorry. Let me go back. You can actually see previous comments from other meetings that have been posted. So you could see what comments were submitted. It's really incumbent upon our voice to make sure that our voice is heard. Once they start doing meetings, you know, so far they're still talking virtual, but they're looking towards, hopefully, last time I think they had 30 hearings around the state, and hopefully they'll be able to get back to that. But it's going to be very important for us, the public, to make our voices heard and at the right time.
And
so
your portion
yeah.
is, time is up. So unless you worked it out.
No, Deb.
Sorry. Okay, so that's exactly the right point to switch off, because everything that I wanted to talk about was getting involved. And the first thing that I'm going to add into the chat box is follow us on Twitter. We have a Twitter handle that is just getting up and running, and I can't see Jeff's face, so I don't know if he's cringing or not, but he knows that we're getting ready to initiate a social media campaign. Our goal is to get ready this April and be fully functional in May. But you can be on the ground floor by liking us today or following us today. So I want to say, you know, we have an advantage, we the indivisible community here in Arizona, in that there are probably over 100 groups, you know, the League of Women Voters, Common Cause, you know, just anybody you can, Lucha, Chispa, just think of any group that's involved in elections, and they are involved in redistricting. What we have as an advantage, we the Indivisible team, is we have people across the state, everywhere, real people who care about this, are activists, are engaged, who track the issues, who can be participants. And so what I want to suggest is that, well, first of all, I want to say two things. Tuesday mornings, like after about 9:10 until about 11:50, give yourself a window to go online and make a comment in the public comment section of the Independent Redistricting Commission. I have a document. I will find the link. It's a Google Doc. I update it every single week with suggested talking points. Make them your own. Find an issue to do that. And the reason that that's important is, one, they're reading them. They haven't actually taken time to address them in their meeting, but they are reading them. And the other thing is, you know, we do all of this work to get letters into the editor or write an op-ed or whatever. By submitting a public comment to their public meeting, we're mainlining our messages to them. They can't not accept them. And that becomes part of the legal documentation of what they were told about our communities of interest. So I really can't emphasize, I mean, really, if you're only going to do one thing, do that. Schedule 10 minutes on Tuesday morning to be a part of that army. On the Brian Schmidt thing, I just want to add a little point to Diane's message, is that All on the Line submitted a petition with over 500 names protesting his selection, and it had people from all but 3 of our counties. The only counties we didn't have represented were La Paz, Graham, and Greenlee. So that's another way that you can help us, is if you know people in those counties, and really it could be your cousin or your cousin's brother or your third cousin by marriage, whatever. Share information and somehow kind of loop them in, because it would be really helpful that we could have universal coverage in all of our counties. And then I want to talk about legal counsel, because that's the 2 big decisions we have coming up. Actually, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I wanted to move that. So the 2 big decisions that Diane mentioned that's facing the commission are hiring legal counsel and hiring a mapping consultant. They each have different pitfalls. Historically, in the 2000 commission and the 2010 commission, they hired 2 firms, one from a Democratic side and one from a Republican side. We want them to continue that. In the 2010 commission, Ballard Spahr and Osborne Maladon were co-counsel, and both of those firms have resubmitted applications this round. I don't actually know very much about the law firms here. Diane actually said that is it Osborne Maladon actually does the dirty money campaign?
Yeah, they're the law firm that Terry has used for our campaigns. Good guys.
Yeah, so there's one firm, Snell and Wilmer, and again, I'm just sharing little bits that I've heard others say. They may be trying to pitch this as, you know, you can save money, just hire us. We have Republicans and Democrats on each side. We do not want to do that. We want to have confidence that those people, those lawyers advising us with a Democratic perspective, are honest to God Democrats. So that's kind of one of our key talking points. And I will have more than strict partisanship framing for that conversation. On the mapping consultant, am I up to my minute?
Yeah.
So on the mapping consultant, they only got 3 applications, and really only one of them is qualified with honest to God redistricting mapping experience. The other 2 firms were legal firms, law firms that had some redistricting and some election experience. The panic, I think, from Chairwoman Newberg was that it was the same firm that mapped the maps in 2011. And so let me talk about that for just a second. So that firm, the maps in 2011 were survived 4 lawsuits. an independent audit from Harvard School of Public Policy or whatever as being fair and competitive. And there was one other criteria that it passed. So they've sustained, they've been effective over the last 10 years, right? But the Republicans have had a complete hissy fit that it wasn't completely slanted in their favor. And so they've spun this narrative that the reason the maps in 2011 weren't fair is because they emphasized the 6 criteria of competitiveness, which is a criteria. It is legitimate to emphasize that when it's appropriate. So that is a conversation that we absolutely want to engage in. And so that is that, making comments, legal counsel mapping. Today they did, actually I think it was yesterday, they posted a position for the public information officer. And so I will post that link also in the chat box. If you know anyone with communication skills, who is bilingual, who has social media capacity, who has media capacity, who has messaging, kind of the whole gamut, encourage them to apply, share it with your networks, and push it out as far as you possibly can. And I think that is everything I wanted to say.
Then you have about 7 minutes to take question and answers. Thank you, Deborah.
Mhm.
Any questions?
There are questions in the chat, right?
Yes, I have one question. Diane, do you think that you can arrange for a training for the PI members, train us how to make those public comments?
Sure, it's pretty easy, but I'm more than happy to.
That'd be great. I think I'll be in touch with you and then we could maybe arrange to do it through Zoom.
Okay.
Thanks. And then Jeff had a question. It looks like it was kind of answered, but I don't know if you want to touch on it again. How exactly was Brian Schmidt chosen again?
Do you want to answer that, Deb?
It was a major fuck up.
Yeah.
So the process, so Chairwoman Newberg is a PhD psychologist, and she, at some points, she's very smart and she's very talented, and I don't really want to be disparaging, but she sometimes acts as if she's been selected to be the counselor for the state of Arizona, and so she talks through these issues that we're doing, blah, 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 blah. But the process was really kind of screwed up. And so, well, the other thing that I'll say is if you watch these meetings, you'll see that they are like racing to the stop sign. It's like they're going 80 miles an hour to go screeching up to the stop. And it's like, really take your time, take a deep breath. These are important conversations you're having. Don't be quite so rushed, but they're always very rushed to get done. And so they came out of an executive session, and I think what happened is the process for voting was not clear. So they went through the 5 candidates that they had. 2 of the commissioners voted for only 1 candidate. 2 of the commissioners voted for 2 of the candidates, and 1 commissioner voted for 3 of the candidates. In that process, only 1 person got 3 votes. I think that had that process been clearer, you might have had another commissioner vote for a second candidate, the second Democratic candidate, in which case there would have been 2 candidates that each got 3 votes. So it was it was just a complete fuck up.
It was, and they really should have used some type of ranked choice voting metric, and they didn't. They just had questions they asked and made their judgment off of that. I've already submitted a public comment when it comes to the legal counsel and the mapping firms. They need to use a grading metric to choose, because I think if they had, like I say, Newberg was every meeting, got to have somebody who can hit the ground running, got to have somebody who can get to Hartzell, which is a Democrat, she's a Democrat, and Gomez, who was the deputy executive director, I think, on the past 2 commissions, at least the last one. I mean, these women, you know, have incredible experience, but so I think we need to, Maria Elena, Deb, anybody else who attends, we need to push as far as on our public comments, and anybody else who wants to get on, that they need to, for the legal counsel and for the mapping, they need to, you know, get a real metric system, grading system together.
And when they brought him back for the second round of interviews, one of the questions is, do you have an Arizona story to tell?
That was so lame. That was so very lame.
So lame.
And then when Schmidt couldn't come up with anything, she says, well, don't you have a story about McCain? And then he gives a story for his sister, not for himself. It was the weirdest thing ever. And
it was.
But anyway.
And I think my takeaway for that, and to say this, because I want to be really positive, we have power to influence this process. And we will do it by being persistent and coordinated and collaborative with other organizations that we are allied with.
You have 1 minute left on this
Okay,
segment.
well, that's okay. So the thing is with the hiring of Brian Schmidt, the commission made their work more difficult, right? Yeah. He has no procurement experience, which is, 80% of this job. And he has no redistricting experience. So he knows nothing. We can run circles around them, and we expect to do that in order to really demand that the maps are fair and impartial.
And she even mentioned that for the executive assistant, they're going to have somebody with a, because in her words, Brian is going to need guidance. Anyway, okay.
Hit the ground running.
Yeah, anywho. All righty, so before I forget, Maria wants to apologize that she's not able to join us, but she will be seeing the video of this later on. Anyway, thank you very much, Dee, and thank you very much, Marion. And we now move on to our next speaker. And Jeff, if you would like to introduce our next speaker, please. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, hi there, everybody. Yes, thank you, Diana, and thank you, Deborah. That was very informative. Really appreciate it. So I am here to introduce Brandon Montoya, who is a candidate for City Council. Brandon has lived here since he was 11 years old, and he's been here for a long time. We were fortunate enough to actually meet with Brandon a couple of weeks ago and ask him some questions, and I really loved his answers and the things he had to say, but I'll let him speak for himself going forward. Take it away, Brandon.
Well, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this organization. One of the things that I was talking about before the meeting got going this evening was one of the reasons I'm passionate about being involved in this election is because for too long, as I have lived here, Prescott has lacked leadership that really listens to its constituents and to its community. And so a big part of that for me is that Prescott does need leadership that is going to listen. And that's what I hope to bring to the City Council. There are a variety of issues that I see as being very important. And I imagine there is a lot of overlap between people who are at this meeting in terms of the same views of those issues. One of those issues that is a big focus for me is what we're talking about right now. And when we were, in the happy hour part of this, we were talking a little bit about this notion of transparency in government. And it's really critical for me as I look at what's happening with the City Council, not just recently, but over the years that I've lived here. As Jeff mentioned, I've been here since I was 11. I went to middle school here. I went to high school here. I went to community college here. I've left and come back, but Prescott is my home, and I care about it. And a little bit of background about me is I'm raising my kids here too. I have a 5-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter, and so when I think about what the kind of Prescott that I want to have is it's a Prescott where my kids can grow up here and raise their kids here. You know, selfishly, I don't want to have to travel across the country to visit my grandkids. So I think that if we don't start demanding our leadership in the city preserve the way of life that we have here, that we're going to end up in a situation where we have a lot of sprawl. And I don't think anyone wants that. You know, we have the power within our city council to really rein in the development. And with the issues we're facing with water management, not only do we have the power, but I would argue we have the responsibility, because we aren't going to have water forever in this community. We are in a drought. And, you know, one of the first people I talked to about the water issue in this election as going forward is Gary Beverly. I reached out to him with Citizens Water Advocacy Group, and Gary is a very, very brilliant person. Molly's having Gary, because I'm name dropping you, Gary. Hi, Gary. But Gary talked about this idea of safe yield, and to me, that's, you know, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, we're taking more water out of the ground than we're putting back in. And that's a problem. And what's more, we've been doing that since before I lived here. And I've been here for 25 years, and it's not getting better, it's getting worse. And so to me, we really need to address the water issue, because it's really tied into the development issue. And that's kind of hand in glove with the Save the Dells issue that's been going on too, with, you know, and I also see it as a tie into what Rory was talking about with the cell phone tower issue. So to me, that's kind of it. And again, I think it's important that we do that. One of the things that is important in my campaign is I'm not taking any donations from developers, because I think that represents a very clear and present conflict of interest. And I won't take any money from developers. And Kathy Rusing didn't, Phil Good didn't, Eric Moore, who's also running for city council, didn't. And that means that we're going up against some very moneyed interests, because you better believe that the other people are going to take money from those developers. And to me, my background, you know, what my professional life is, and the reason I'm still wearing a tie at 6:30 in the evening is I'm a financial advisor. And I'm not just any financial advisor. My wife and I run a registered investment advisor, and we are a fiduciary investment advisor. And that word fiduciary is really important to me in my day-to-day life as a professional, because to me, that means I have to look out for the best interests of my clients. And I see that as an extension of what I'll do in city council. I'll look out for the best interest of all of Prescott. And I won't, you know, dismiss people as special interest groups. To me, every voice needs to be heard in Prescott, and we really need to bring everyone to have a seat at the table. You know, fiduciary responsibility in city leadership is unfortunately painfully lacking at this point. And I think the city deserves it. You know, it really needs it. And so that's why I'm running. That's who I am. I'm happy to take questions too. I guess the one thing I would say, because I'm not taking money from developers, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to consider donating to my campaign. You can do so by going to brandonmontoya.com. There's a button there that says donate. I'll put it in the chat as well. Also, if you aren't in a position to donate, that's okay. I understand, especially in the last year, many of us have had some financial troubles, and I get that. I would love to have volunteers. Lori Decker is my campaign manager. She's on this call too, and we need all the help we can get. And we need smart, dedicated people, and I think, you know, the more the merrier. So if you're interested in volunteering, you can also go to volunteer.brandonmontoya.com, put in your contact information. We're going to maintain a database, and we'll get back to you. But I'm excited to do this. And more than anything, I'm excited to be involved in this process and listening to constituents to understand the issues that are important to them.
Thank you, Brandon. That was great. Let's see if we have any questions. Actually, I have a question for you. So you mentioned fiduciary responsibility, and you mentioned that everybody should have a seat at the table. And you also mentioned that you're in financial services. And so in financial services, I guess you're doing like wealth management, stuff like that. So a lot of the folks that you're working with are already pretty well off. And I know a bunch of people who are living in this community who are not so well off and who are struggling here because of a lot of the changes and the things that are happening. So I'm wondering, what is your plan, both in the run up to the election and should you be elected, to listen to poor people and to reach out to poor people and hear their concerns? Thank you.
So Jeff, that's a great question. And I will say, as someone who grew up in this community, I can count on one hand the number of kids that I went to school with who still live in Prescott, because the bottom line is that people come to Prescott to retire, but they don't come here to build a career, because we aren't doing the right things on the city leadership level to nurture that kind of business in Prescott. You know, there's plenty of bars, there's plenty of churches, there's plenty of medical services, there's plenty of financial service firms, but we don't have the diversity within our business community that we really ought to. And so to me, a big component of addressing what you're talking about is really looking at how we make a more vibrant and diverse business community here, because everyone should have an opportunity to improve their lot in life. And that's something that's really passionate to me and Lori, because both she and I were pretty involved in this program within Rotary. We're both Rotarians, called the Vocational, the Arizona, Lori, what is it?
It's the Rotary Vocational Fund of Arizona,
TRFA.
otherwise known as TRFA at our house.
TRFA. So one of the things that's great about it is this is an organization within Rotary, and it only exists in Arizona, where they help people get across the line with getting not college degrees, but technical degree programs. So whether they're becoming a nurse or they're becoming a welder, they get them across the line. These are people who they've screened out, and they really make a difference. They give these people $400. And I think that's an excellent idea. That's something we could do as a city. We need to start investing into lifting people up in our community. And so I mean, I think the only way to address it in the run-up, Jeff, I guess, to be direct about it, is I have to listen to those people. And I'm one of the things that I'm going to be insistent about throughout this campaign is being accessible. And so I would say to you, if you have people like that who feel like they're not being heard by the current leadership,
1 minute left.
give me their contact information, or get my contact information to them.
Just a quick follow-up. The people who I'm talking to, they can't afford to pay rent. So that's really their issue, that they can't find affordable housing here.
Yeah, so affordable housing is a huge issue, and I actually spoke at length with Tony Dennis about it. I think one of the things that I think about is it's a clear and present danger to not have affordable housing in Prescott, because at some point, if you keep pushing our workforce further and further away from Prescott, they won't come to Prescott to work here. And so, if I'm living in Dewey and I have to drive 40 minutes to get to Prescott to make $12 an hour, I might as well just live in Phoenix at that point. And so we have to work with developers. We have to look at that issue and be really serious about it. It's a complex issue, and I won't pretend like I have an answer to affordable housing, but it's definitely something that's on my radar.
Here's another question from the chat, Brandon. Are you hoping to do a voting strategy such as Rusing did to make sure we get you elected?
So that's a great question. I am, we are, Eric Moore and I have been working, I wouldn't say closely together, but we've been definitely talking on a regular basis. And one of the things that Eric, and I'm an independent, by the way, I should have said that earlier. And Eric Moore is a Republican, but Eric Moore, a lot of these issues about water conservation and reasonable development, those are on his radar too. And they're issues that he really cares about. And so we are talking about doing something similar to what Kathy did, where it's a double shot instead of a single shot. And so that's definitely something we're looking at.
1 minute left, Brandon. Anybody else have a quick question?
Yeah, there is another question in the chat. Would you support Prescott adopting something similar to the non-discrimination ordinance recently approved by Mesa? They are the 7th AZ city to do so.
I'll be honest, I'm not familiar enough with that to know, but I do think Prescott, it is good for the downtown area. It is good for business to project an inclusive attitude. And I think that's something that we really need to push forward in our community, is we need to, and I think I talked with Jeff about this in our call. To me, when we talked prior to this one, to me, Prescott needs, it's good for business. And I say this from a business perspective, to have a perception that everyone's welcome here, because it doesn't matter what you look like, you spending dollars in our community helps our community. And so that's to me, whatever we can do to further that message and get more people to come to Prescott and feel safe and included here, I think that's great.
Could you quickly, you or Lori, give a quick rundown of the important dates coming up, please? You know, in terms of when the primaries are, or when, you know, any of the things that may be important to this group.
So the primary election is, Lori, you have
August 3rd.
August 3rd.
Yeah, that's our
And
first
so,
big date.
was that?
That's our first big date coming up.
Yeah, that's our first big day. We are going to be, and again, we're going to, our website is in its early stages, but we are going to also be having events listed on our website. We're looking, if you're willing to donate, the other thing I would say, if you have friends or neighbors that you would be willing to have that are interested in, you know, kind of meeting me and explaining to me what their concerns and issues are, I'd love to meet them. Again, like I said, I'm not taking money from developers. And so that puts me a lot further back in terms of our ability to move forward with this campaign. And I think we have good issues and good ideas, but the bottom line is we need to get our message out. And so I guess the big issue, the big date that I would say is the election, obviously the primary. If we get 50%, we'll be able to move forward with that seat. If we don't, then we go to the general election. If not, all 3 seats are filled in that first primary election.
But we need to get you known before then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very, very much. Any other questions? No, we're good. Thank you very much for spending all this time with us, and hopefully we can, you know, get you to where you need to be.
Well, I'm really grateful. I think you guys are doing good work, and I appreciate the opportunity to address you guys. And I would say that, to me, you know, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you go to my website, my phone number is on there. I love talking to people. I love hearing what people have to say about issues, because that's how I get better and better at what I'm doing. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, now let me introduce quickly one of the members of Prescott Indivisible and of our steering committee, and also someone who has been involved for a very long time in nuclear resistance and anti-nuclear issues and demonstrating. Marion is going to give us a quick update on what she's up to and what she's proposing.
Thank you so
Mary.
much, Maria Elena. Yes, back in the 80s, I was very involved in both the nuclear power issue and the nuclear war issue. And I went out and did a lot of public speaking on it, speaking to community groups and high schools. And one of the questions that I would pose to the audience is, how many of you are concerned that a world war, that a nuclear war could happen in the next 24 hours? And generally, almost every hand in the audience went up. Then in the 1990s, after the dissolving of the Soviet Union and the Berlin Wall came down, it was like the whole issue of nuclear war evaporated from people's thinking. I was working on nuclear waste issues then, and I just for fun of it posed that question to a couple groups, and I might have had just grown 2 heads the way they looked at me, like, what? That's how far the thinking of nuclear war and the threat has changed, unless we have South Korea rattling the saber and things like that. And so that does not mean that the work for nuclear disarmament has not continued on, even though the general public hasn't been thinking about it. In fact, on January 22nd, the day after President Biden was inaugurated, at the United Nations, the Treaty on the Abolition of Nuclear Weapons went into full ratification. And what that actually means, I wasn't even quite sure, but to have a treaty ratified means that 50 nation states have agreed to sign on to it and legally adhere to it. Back in 2017 is when it was first introduced. And the group that really moved this ahead was a group called the International Committee on Nuclear Disarmament. And they have taken a very active role all through this time. And in fact, you may even remember hearing about them because in 2017, they won the Nobel Peace Prize. And it was said for their work to draw attention to the catastrophic human consequences of any use of nuclear weapons. And in that same year, ICANN worked with the United Nations and nation countries, and I think it was October 12th, yes. 122 states and voted in favor of the adoption of the treaty for the abolition of nuclear weapons. And so at that point, I wanted to share with you just their description of this organization. The International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, ICANN, is a coalition of non-governmental organizations in over 100 nations promoting adherence and implication of the United States Treaty, or the, United Nations Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. And so as last October, the 50th country signed on to the ratification of this great treaty. And so at this point, those 50 nations are legally bound by this treaty, but we certainly have many others that haven't signed on to it. And of course, the nuclear weapon states have not signed on to it, and we're going to have to work really, really hard to get them to. But that's kind of what people have been doing. ICANN had a project that is ongoing, ICANN Save the Cities. And there are now in the United States, 3 states that have passed a resolution in support of the treaty. And also, those are California, Oregon, and New Jersey. And so besides that, in this work that ICANN has been doing with all these different organizations, right here in the United States, we have 40 cities that have now signed on to supporting the abolition for the treaty for the abolition of nuclear weapons. And so what can we do about it now? What can we do about it locally? Well, what we can do about it is make our government aware that we really want to move ahead on this. And we certainly are going to have a bit more of a say, a bit more hearing on the issue with the new administration we have, because in January of 2017, President Biden said, as a nation, I believe we should keep pursuing peace and security for a world without nuclear weapons, because that is the only surety that we have against the nightmare scenario of becoming reality. We want a world without nuclear weapons, and the US must take the lead. So this is our challenge, and this is our opportunity. Here in our local area, we also have another group called the Peace Builders. And it's a smaller group than Indivisible, but they have been working very hard on peace and nuclear disarmament issues. They host the September treaty International Treaty for Peace. And so they have been doing that for about 4 years, and their focus is turned towards nuclear weapons too. So we're going to institute our own project here in Prescott, and that would be to take a proclamation to our city council and submit that to them, ask them to support it. And then we are going to be a presence outside of the city council with banners at every meeting. So that's what we got going. And I certainly am looking for the support. Oh, I have a couple of minutes yet. I'm certainly looking, I'm trying to time myself. That's a little hard.
I was going to tell you 1 minute.
Okay. So we would love the support and the help of Indivisible, I believe it's an issue that, well, it's tied very closely to the environment because there are those that are promoting nuclear power as a way to get away from fossil fuels. And that's like jumping from the frying pan right straight into the fire if we do that. So that's what's up. And I have an article in every other, now that we're printing every other week, I have a nuclear resistor article and love to have you take a look at it. Right now, the best thing we could do is write President Biden, tell him what we want, tell him we want to work towards a nuclear-free world.
Thank you very much, Marion. Now, Dee, questions?
Yes, there's a question in the chat. Are there any groups in our area who are working on nuclear waste disposal and/or the downwinders?
There is an individual that has worked very actively here on the downwinders issue. I cannot think of her name at the moment, but she, through her lobbying with the government, got the area enlarged where more people would be counted in the possibility that they were affected by or above ground nuclear testing. As far as nuclear waste issues, it's very silent here about it. Now, we don't even hear much about our nuclear power plant, but we do have one, Rotary, that's quite remote. So nuclear waste is an ongoing issue, and I will be writing quite a bit about that.
Thank you. Great. Anybody else, even if you didn't write it, if you have something to add or contribute or ask? Is anybody raising their hand? I can't see. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
I was just wondering how we can see her newsletter. Does she post it in Indivisible?
Yes, it is an Indivisible every other week. It's not every week, but it's every other week. And the column is called The Nuclear Resistor. And I only put a blurb into the newsletter because, you know, we like to try to keep it kind of short, and the information I am giving takes a little longer. So there's a link to click to take you right into our website, and that's where the whole article is.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Marion. Anybody else? Any questions? Don't see hands. No hands. Okay. Well, given that we now are going to move on to a quick treasurer's report. This is something we usually do at the beginning of the meeting, but we're going to just have all the different teams report in. Has anybody seen Riley come into this meeting? Is Riley here? Well,
I haven't seen him.
okay, we will learn later. Anywho, first on the agenda for these is Jane, our treasurer. Let us know how wealthy or not we are.
Okay, do I need to share a screen or anything like that, or you?
No, you don't need to. Just
Oh, cool. Okay.
tell it
Well,
like
tell it like it is, right? Well, we are, I wouldn't say wealthy, which is good because we do give away 100% of what we receive. And so this last month has been somewhat quiet, although most of our activity has been around, and most of our expense has been around removing Paul Gosar, which we are working diligently to do, especially through Jeff and through our website and through our Twitter page. And other than that, of course, I didn't, let me see where I jotted down. I apologize. We have about 7,700 in our checking, and we've got 1,300 in our TrueLink card, which is essentially where our absolute deductions or donations go. Other than that, all of our have got their donations set up. Immigration, CCJ, our general expenses, which do outweigh all the others normally. Racial justice, and also, although it's temporarily in the background, the Voters Values Project, which we hope to revamp in the future. So, as I always say, thank you so much for supporting us. We are trying to keep our fingers in a lot of pies and make I should say an effort, a change in all of them. And if it wasn't for you, we couldn't do it. So thank you very much.
Jane, do you mind telling the group what this matching opportunity is from National? I believe it's National, Indivisible National, what the dates are and how people can take advantage of that if they want to contribute.
Yes, thank you very much. We are having upcoming here, as Maria Elena said, the Indivisible as the big organization is matching every donation we receive. So that is going to happen from April 5th through May 30th. And we have in order to be matched, we need the donation done on Act Blue. So if you go to our website at www.prescottindivisible.org, there's a big donate button that if you click on that, you will be presented with a couple of options to donate. Please click on the Act Blue option in order to have your donation doubled. And we will put that money to very good use. And we'll talk about it at each meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for Jane? Any comments? All right. On that note, what happened there? Who is that lady? Is that you, Jane? That image. Our education team lead, Nikki, and apologies for having misspelled your name in the agenda. I have spelled your name in every possible way, and I promise not to do it again. But anyway, if you could bring us up to date in terms of what our wonderful legislature is doing to destroy public education in Arizona. Go for it.
Sure. So I'm going to try to just give you guys a recap of where we're at. We're roughly a little over halfway through the legislative session. There's been over 900 bills passed around, drafted, and dismissed or passed through. In terms of education policy, every single thing that we've been monitoring closely that is bad policy for K-12 schools in Arizona is still alive and well. There's not one bill that we can say is off the table or unable to be passed at this point. It is a really weird time at the legislature. This last week and the next week, they're going to begin discussing the budget. And so all of these bills that haven't been heard yet will be negotiated with the budget. They will trade votes. That's pretty typical of their behavior around the budget. So if we've got a holdout on a really bad bill and they need all of the majority party on board, they will trade around budget negotiations. We are waiting for a number of the larger bills that were very concerning for public schools to be assigned to the entire state Senate side or House side. That's the entire group that it needs to pass. The fact that these bills haven't been assigned is slightly comforting, but not too much, just simply because if they get assigned to the entire committee, typically that means the majority party has the votes to pass it. So every day that we don't see these bills, voucher expansion, privatization efforts, tax cuts to Prop 208, every day we don't see those assigned is a really good sign that they're struggling to get their caucus on board to pass them. So we are, working to apply pressure to key legislatures that we think are holdouts on these. None of them are LD1. Nobody is even thinking that those three will change their votes in support of public schools, given their history. So that's where the legislature's at. The budget is not public. Most Democrats have not seen it. The public certainly has not seen it, but the Republicans are kind of massaging their version of what the budget will be. So when the budget drops, we will have very short notice on that. We'll have to kind of dig through it. Typically, I find out about the budget the same time that Democratic lawmakers do, which is just a horrific system. And so they will have very little time to kind of dig in there and find out what exactly all those budget bills are going to mean for Arizona. And so if you start seeing signs that a budget is moving, please get on RTS if you're instructed to, or if there's a call to action. Typically, they run this thing in the middle of the night. That's why almost every other year I have slept at the Capitol right around this time. because they do like to pass that stuff in the wee morning hours. Typically 2 to 6 in the morning has been their habit. I don't know if they're going to do that this year. I know that there's a lot of pressure because a lot of people are RTSing. The RTS system has been blown up, and so I know they're feeling the heat from that. So keep it up if you're in RTS. Budget bills will be coming out shortly, and there will be an opportunity to weigh in on that package as soon as it's public. 2 big events coming up for K-12 supporters. First, we have a statewide day of action in response to all the bad bills and the fact that we anticipate they will be hitting the floor shortly. So this Saturday here in Prescott Valley from 11 to 1, there is an event at Bob Edwards Park. That's going to be a car painting and postcards to legislatures that Carrie and I will be driving down to the Capitol at some point. There's also events happening all over. We've got a Verde Valley event, Flagstaff, Kingman, Phoenix, Tucson. This is a statewide day of action, and it is the beginning of the organizing effort behind opposition to this batch of really, really bad public school bills. So I'm going to drop the link to that event page in the chat. And then, of course, it's been in the newsletters that have come out so far. And then the second thing, the PI Education Committee is meeting April 8th via Zoom at 4 p.m. If you are interested in joining that group, I will also leave my email in the chat. You can reach out and I'll send you the link. Questions?
Thank you so much. I just don't know. It's so frustrating working with the legislature. Hats off to you for persisting and resisting. Diane, did you want to say something?
Yeah, Nikki, when does the legislative session end for this
So here
year?
in Arizona, we have a 100-day legislative session, but that's not technically a mandate. They can run over or under. Senate President Fan has said that she wants to see it shortened. She wants to go home. But given the chaos in the Republican caucus at this point, I don't know that they're realistically going to get out early. It won't be terribly early if they do. We do have a caucus kind of split here with the governor having a very different set of priorities versus the moderate wing versus the far right wing. And so if those three are not rowing in the same direction, we really could see a late running legislative session. If they're running 100 days, that's kind of like late April.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Well, what is the name of, if people receive or have access to the Daily Courier, what's the name of it's Howard, the reporter. He's really very good about every day that the paper publishes, he has something, every time it's one more outrageous than the other, but in terms of what is being proposed and what the chances are. And so that's one good way of following some of what is going on. Anyway, how do you remember his last name?
It's Howard Fisher.
Fisher.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
He's with the Arizona Capital Times, actually.
Yes.
And the Courier subscribes to his articles.
Yeah, exactly. They at least they print them. Yeah. So yeah, no, I appreciate it. Anyway, no one else? Okay, so we are the team lead for the youth group is a young man by the name of Riley. He does go to school, and so he has been unable to join us today. But what I wanted to let everybody know is that, in fact, that youth team is going to meet on December 5th between 5 and 5:30. So if you have, neighbors who have young people who may be interested in becoming a little bit more politically active, if you have grandchildren or any person that would be interested, it's on the 5th of April between 5 and 5:30, and just go to the Prescott Indivisible website, look for the teams, and the information will be there. We hope to have more and more young people become engaged because it's their future that we are battling for. Next, any questions or any other comments from anyone that knows more about the youth team or about the meeting? Is that you, Cindy, raising your hand? No. Okay. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce Jeff, who is the lead for our communications team and who has been very involved in the GOSAR, Kick GOSAR, Get GOSAR Out effort. And so are you going to first talk, Jeff, or are we going immediately to Judy?
So yeah, no, I'll take it. I'll take it. Thank you, Emmy. So over the past month, the Remove Paul Gosar Task Force has done a whole bunch of work to keep the pressure up on the American Dental Association, Paul Gosar's largest donor. And the idea is to put pressure on the ADA to stop funding Paul Gosar in hopes that that will essentially marginalize him in Congress. And it's working. What we have done is created an internal dialogue inside the ADA about what to do about him. So your calls and your emails are having an impact. And that's great news, but obviously we're not done yet. There's still work to do. They haven't actually made a public statement yet or said that they're going to stop giving him money, but you're probably following the story in Georgia, you know, where big corporations are coming out, Delta and Coca-Cola namely, you know, and really coming out against this this horrible voter suppression bills or law now that was just passed. And so, you know, we're linking a lot of things together and doing work on Twitter every single day. Back a couple of weeks ago on the 20th, a couple Saturdays ago, a bunch of folks who are in Gosar's district traveled to Payson. Some folks traveled from as far away as Yuma, 5.5 hours to do an action in Payson because Paul Gosar, Karen Fann, and Walt Blackman were the keynote speakers at what the Gila County GOP called the Lincoln Luncheon. And so our friend Jay Ruby got on his stilts and he dressed up like Abe Lincoln, and we got some banners and we got a bunch of people holding signs, and we actually did this action where we called out Paul Gosar and the AZ GOP for the big lie and for insurrection and for white supremacy. And essentially the thrust of it was that Honest Abe says no to these things, right? And so we were on the corner there in front of the casino that they were speaking at, and we made it a bit of a thing of it. And we put it on Twitter, and it went everywhere on Twitter, and we got a lot of attention that way. So that was a great thing to have done in solidarity with folks came from all over the district, from Prescott, from the Verde Valley. Of course, there were people there from Payson and Flagstaff even, and Yuma and the North Valley. So, and then just a couple of days ago, we released another video linking, so after the horrible tragedy in Atlanta, the murders and the hateful murders against the Asian American community, the ADA actually came out with a statement, of course, condemning that behavior and, you know, saying that they wanted to have they agree with an inclusive society, and like their organization is changing and becoming more diverse, and that's a good thing. And so that was just too much of a thing for us to see and take a pass on, you know, when considering the hypocrisy of that statement juxtaposed with the behavior of Paul Gosar and their support for him. So we debuted a video called Enabling Paul Gosar a couple of days ago on Twitter, and it's gotten really good play. We've gotten a bunch of really good retweets on it. It's pushing 15,000 views after 48 hours. And we're continuing to keep up the pressure and asking everybody to continue to keep calling and keep emailing the ADA and keep letting them know that whether it's promoting the big lie or helping to bring on the insurrection or you know, speaking with white supremacists at AFPAC, or you know, being one of the first ones to use the phrase Wuhan virus and really bring on a lot of this anti-Asian feeling and sentiment around COVID in the past year, that their ideals are not in alignment with who this man is. And the more folks from our district that let them know that every single day, the better chance we have to actually get them to move on the issue. And I will say that we have more coming as well. And I'm going to just drop the links right here into the chat. So we have the Enabling Paul Gosar on Twitter, on Facebook, and then the Abe Says No on Twitter and on Facebook. Please give those some likes and shares and retweets and all of that to keep it going. And I really do appreciate everybody's support. And so with that, also talking about Paul Gosar, I have, we have a little bit of a surprise, a special announcement here tonight. And so what I would like to do is hand it over to Judy Stahl for that. Take it away, Judy.
Thank you, Jeff. Hi, everybody. Judy Stahl here. So glad to be with you all, and so appreciate all these amazing activists here who have been working their hearts out for voting rights, for education, for women's rights here in Arizona at the Arizona legislature. And as Jeff was saying, you know, we just have to be relentless. So I'm very happy to be letting you all know that I am running for United States Congress for Arizona's 4th Congressional District, whatever that ends up being after the redistricting. And right now, we all know who's sitting in that district. We want him removed, and we need to take it from every direction. I have a great team who I'm working with, and today is day 1 of our campaign. We now know that one of the main things you've got to do if you want to have a voice is you've got to raise that money. And that is what we're in the process of doing right now. So I want to let you know that if you want to support me on day 1 and have whatever contribution you make, pack a huge wallop. You can do that. Please do it before 9 p.m. because Act Blue, our platform, goes on Washington, D.C. time. And of course, we're on Pacific time right now. So if you'll go to my website, and I'll put the link in the chat, judystahl.com, press on that donate button. If you can put in $5, if you can put in 500, if you can put in 5,000, it's going to go to the right place. And the other thing that I'm happy to say is up and running on the Secretary of State's website is our equal petition signing. So if you would sign my petition, I would appreciate that. I do want you to know that I'm aware that Delina DeSanto, who I like and respect, has also put her name in to run for this seat in the primary. And I did have a conversation with Delina back in February about this. We are very harmonious with each other. I fully intend to win this primary and to take it as far as we can take it. I know it's tough in this district, but I do believe that it's possible. And I know that with a team that's reaching out starting now in April of 2021, that we will build the field team that we need throughout the district to do the door knocking. We're already doing the phone calling, going to raise that money and do what we need to get rid of this scourge on democracy. So thank you very much. I would be happy to answer a question or two if Marion Pack is giving me her extra minute.
1 minute.
Judy, there's a question in the chat. Do you need $5 contributions?
Sorry, I muted myself. I am running a traditional campaign, and which I did in my 2020 run for State House. I want to get money out of politics. I want to end Citizens United. I support the Clean Elections Commission, but I'm not willing to give on any chance that I've got to do the work that we need to have a very serious campaign. So it's not the $5 contributions that I need, although I will accept $5 contributions. We can literally accept, an individual can donate $5,800 for the entire election cycle to a candidate, $2,900 of which is for the primary. If we didn't win the primary, then we would refund that other 2,900. But that's how it works in America today. So from $5,800 on down, if you can go to my Act Blue link and on my website and put in a donation, that's how we're going to get the strength for this campaign to be taken seriously. And we're doing well. I can tell you that my campaign opened today, and already we have raised tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
So we're receiving funds from throughout the country, but most of it is from right here in Arizona, and much of that is from right here in the district. And we're going to do everything we need to win this election and to have Gosar quaking in his boots, or whoever it is who's there after his ass is kicked out. Oh, did I say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Diane's asking about signatures. How many signatures do we need? I think that we're going to need 25,000. And luckily, we're not going to be in a pandemic, so we'll be going door to door throughout the district. Initially, we're going to focus on Yavapai and Mojave counties, because we assume that those are going to end up in whatever district is formulated here. And regardless, we're reaching out to everyone because everybody wants him gone. And this is the work that we need to do, as you all know, in order to build the connective tissue so that we can take this seat and show these people that they are not the majority anymore. They've attempted to create an ivory tower around themselves, and that's just not okay. That's not the United States. It's not the world. And frankly, it's not even Arizona. And so we're going to do the work, and we're really excited about it.
Thank you very much, Judy, and congratulations. And thank you for stepping up, because we need to keep the pressure on. And is it in your website? How to go to the signature page?
The signature page is not on my website yet. Literally, this is all,
Okay.
unfolding today, but I put the link there for the Secretary of State's website, because
Got it.
even though we're running a federal race, that's where you go to sign the petition at this point in time.
Okay,
And
great.
thank you so
Right.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions, any comments,
Judy,
Yes, Diane.
do you know Jem Morgaine from Kingman?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. She's running for LD5. I just thought as far as signatures and up in that area, somebody you could hand a bunch of petitions to. She knows a lot of people up there.
Believe me, we're going to be reaching out to everybody I know who's anywhere within what we believe this district will end up being. And right now, we're pretty sure it's going to be most of Yavapai, Mojave, and but again, we don't exactly know. We're going to do the work in prep.
and James loves Gosar.
Oh yes, Jem adores
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, right. Very fun. Anyway, well, we're coming close, and we don't want to skip anything. So without further ado, here is Carrie to talk to us about the great month of April and the environment.
Hi, everybody. Happy April Fool's Day. And congratulations, Judy, on that announcement. Very exciting. I got to make this quick because I have a lot to cover. I want to start off with making the announcement that the Yavapai Climate Change Coalition is making headway. Finally, we're having some clear communications with Councilperson Rusing and Scholl, and it looks like we're going to get some initiatives on the agenda. So when that happens, please check the newsletter for announcements, because we need people to go down to the meetings when we have some of our work that we're working on, solar panels on wastewater treatment plants. We need people to go down and comment and support the work that we're doing. Patrick Grady also got the Prescott City Council to sign an Earth Day proclamation, where our leaders from the Earth Day Committee will be there to accept it at that City Council meeting. So that's exciting. You'll want to watch for that. I'll put that in the newsletter when that meeting's coming up. And I'm going to be dropping a lot of links in the chat box, because I had some stuff to share, but Maria's not here. So but one of the links is going to be Patrick Grady. I just saw Gary Beverly emailed, and Patrick Grady wrote an excellent article about climate change in the 5 Senses magazine. So I'll put that link in the chat box, but also look for it in the newspaper. So off to Earth Week begins April 17th with, that's a Saturday. Prescott Creeks is going to have a cleanup, and I think the sign up has already passed, but you can still check out their website. They're going to divide it all up and keep it socially distant. So you go to different creeks to do cleanup. And then our Earth Week goes till April 24th, which ends Prescott Earth Day in person at Granite Creek Park. All this is going to be in the links that I provide. We have a whole events calendar. But most importantly, the Prescott Indivisible and NASCAR are co-sponsoring an Earth Day event. It's a community gathering in downtown Prescott on April 22nd from 2:30 to 4:30. We need everybody to be there. So look for that link in the chat box. We're going to have entertainment from Meg Borman and Jonathan Best, and an open mic for people to give testimonials on why you love the planet. And then finally, don't forget about everything going on at the state legislature. Yeah, the schools are getting beaten up as usual, but so are environmental issues. So I'm going to make sure that you all have the link to the Sierra Club legislative update. Sandy Barr works her tail off, tracking all these bills and the strikers, everything that happens with public education. It happens with our environmental and our water issues as well. And it's not good. And people need to stand up, use your voice, email, and call the state legislature and share all the evil videos that you see at the way that they're treating our great legislators trying to stick up for our schools and our environment. So that's it. I kept it short and sweet, but I have a lot of links in the chat box, and check the newsletter for everything too. All right, that's it.
Thank you very much. Questions? Anybody? The event that you were talking about on the 22nd, that's going to be in person?
That's right. It'll be just like around Bucky O'Neill statue. Everybody's going to bring blankets and chairs and just spread out, and we're just going to have music and a party and a little microphone. People can just talk and share, just commune.
Okay.
With each other and the earth.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Anybody have questions? And I'm sorry about the not being able to share, but I'm not quite gifted in the area. But here's all the information, and it does appear in the newsletter. So thank you very much. All right. Well, I'm going to make one announcement, and then I'm going to open it up for a few minutes for whatever anybody wants to say. And then after that, we'll wrap it up. One of the announcements is that I'm sure you have all are aware or are familiar with the fact that we are trying to get the District of Columbia to become a state. And there is a promotion type thing organized by Indivisible National, whereby we were able to obtain for free American flags with 51 stars. And some of us got them, and we have them. And look in the newsletter for an announcement giving you specific dates for when whoever wants to come, we are going to meet down at the square, probably in front of Bucky, possibly the week of 12th April. Because I'll get back to that in a second. And we're going to have our picture taken in front of special Prescott type landmarks, and we will get those into social media. The idea is that these are going to be done by all kinds of indivisibles and going to be published on the 16th of April. So we want to do ours ahead of time. If you're interested, just keep looking at our newsletter, go on our website where we will announce when we're doing it, and we will wear masks, etc. But it's all going to be outdoors. So anyway, Jeff, do you have any other thing to say about that? Is Jeff there? Okay. Anyway, so the only other thing I have, anybody have any comments? Did I go offline? No?
We can hear you, Emmy.
Oh, okay. So I guess it's just dead silence. Yes. Anybody else have any announcements to make? Anything we should be aware of? Any things that you want people to know about? Nobody. Okay. So then the next meeting is going to be on the 6th of May, if I recall correctly. I should have written that down. April. Yes, it's on the 6th of May. Again, we're going to do an early, happy hour, which is basically a half an hour. So join us at 5:30, if not at 6 o'clock. And we are going to have the pleasure of listening to Diane McQueen again, because she is going to talk to us about the dark money campaign and how that's going to get all geared up again. Anybody else? I think we're losing participants. Thank you to all the presenters, and thank you to everybody who has helped. And we look forward to seeing all of you next month, if not before. Anything else? I guess not. Thank you. Thank you, Dee.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.